Hey guys, it's Jim here, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that a lot of people have talked about before. I just kind of wanted to weigh in and give my 2 cents on. I'm going to be talking about cheaper guitars like the Harley Benton versus more expensive guitars like my Gibsons and Fenders. But before we get started, there are a few things that I think are really important that people need to be considering here. On YouTube, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of guitar channels. There are lots of shops that sell on YouTube. There are lots of YouTubers, such as myself, that do this completely for free. Everything we get is out of pocket. And there are also YouTubers who have sponsors. These are people that either get the products at a discount or they'll get them for free in some instances. So when you're developing your opinion on these guitars, and unfortunately, especially in the case of the Harley Benton, you're not going to be able to try one in person before you buy it, more often than not. You just have to consider the other factors that are at play here when it comes to how people will review or rate these products. First, I'm going to start with the shops. You have to remember, the number one goal of the shop is to make money. It doesn't matter if it's guitars, cars, refrigerators, who cares? The end game here is for them to be able to sell you something so that they can make a profit. And so in the guitar game, a lot of times what I'll see shops doing is, and this is totally normal and I totally understand it, but they'll kind of be downplaying a brand or a company that they don't sell, and they'll be more pushing forward towards something that they do sell. So as long as you have that in mind, you know, there's always going to be a little bit of bias. I have bias myself, but it's important to remember that. The YouTubers, same exact thing for the people that are paid and stuff to do this. If you're in this as a YouTuber and you want to continue to do this and make money, you know, there are some people that do make a living making YouTube reviews. The only ones that I can think of don't get the really big brands anymore outside of PRS because they're afraid, the brands themselves, they're afraid that the people are going to be too honest with them about the guitars. I mainly think of Philip McKnight here. I admire that guy so much because he just says it how it is. Unfortunately, not everyone is like that. And when they do get the opportunity to demo or, you know, make a product review, it might be a little bit more biased than normal. They might leave out a fact or two, or the condition of the guitar, or their real opinion, most importantly, in order to ensure that the sponsor or the vendor or the manufacturer is happy and will work with them later on in the future. And finally, you have YouTubers that do things completely out of their own pocket. And to me, that's always going to be the most honest advice for obvious reasons. If they're happy with something, they're going to tell you how happy they are with it. But if something's not right, it's their money. They weren't supplied anything. They didn't get any sort of discount. They're going to tell you that too. So I think that it's important to remember we all have our biases. Like me, for example, I hate SGs. You could put the best SG in the whole world into my hands. I'm not going to like it. It's just how I am. I don't like the body design. I don't like the way the headstock dives, whatever. But I mean, as long as you kind of can acknowledge those upfront biases, I think they're the way to go. So with that out of the way, I'm going to start with Harley Bentons. Harley Bentons are cheap for a multitude of reasons. For starters, when they go out and they select their wood, it's not like Gibson, it's not like Fender, it's not like PRS. They buy a lot of a tone wood, like mahogany, in big bulk. They're not so picky on whether it's all going to be of the same quality. They're just more concerned of getting as much as they can for a decent price. Now, what this is going to lead to is some people, when they get a Harley Benton, they might get a really, really good guitar out of the box, and it might just be down to luck because you're going to be getting the better sections of wood that came from that lot, while other people might get less desirable pieces that a company like Gibson would just never produce a guitar out of to begin with. So you're immediately kind of taking an inherent risk, but at that price point, it's not the biggest risk in the whole world. But let's say you do get one of the ones that had the primo wood from that lot in a mass-produced guitar like a Harley Benton. The rest of the guitar might not be up to scratch, and that has to do with the quality control. The frets might not be leveled correctly. You might not have a good feel to it as far as the fret edges go. The electronics might not be up to scratch as far as physically working as they should, and just cosmetically and paint-wise, it's not going to be to the same standard. You can't expect it to be. With this guitar, it's gorgeous right now, but I don't know how confident I am that over the long run, this finish is going to stay as nice as it is. Whereas with the Gibson, I know that that's going to age and last as long as I do, so long as I take care of it. However, you might be thinking, Fender and Gibson, they're not exactly the best with quality control these days anyways. And I'd say you're partially right. I had a brand new limited edition Cabronita Telecaster that was $18.99 new, so over $2,000 after tax. The pickup selector was dead from the factory. I was the only one to touch that guitar. And for me and for my money, that's completely unacceptable. I've also played Mexican Fenders, same issues. Bad frets on them, really rough frets on them. They're not level, not the best nut work, but I've also played really good ones. The difference is you're much less likely to experience that with a Fender or a Gibson than you are with a Harley Benton in general. And another thing to remember is all cheaper guitars are going to have some sort of compromises in them. You're always going to have to give up something to get something at a lower price. For example, with the Squier, the classic Vibe Jaguar that I have, I would not recommend a beginner buy one of those in basically any circumstance because of the way that the bridge is designed from the factory. There's entirely too much play in the thimbles. The thing doesn't always return to tune nearly as well as a typical Jaguar or offset guitar does. So if you're a new player and you're trying to get the guitar to stay in tune and you can't, that's just another thing that's going to be off-putting for you learning the instrument. And that just goes to show, it doesn't matter if it's licensed by a bigger company or it's an indie one like Harley Benton, you might have problems regardless in that price range. I know I'm going to come across as a fanboy here, but of the major companies in America, the only one I would trust to take a guitar off of any store wall and play that night for a gig with no problems is Paul Reed Smith. They are just on another level with their quality control and their products. So then why even bother with Gibson or Fender if what I'm saying about the quality, can be a little bit inconsistent? And it comes down to the fact that when Gibson gets it right, which is the case with my 339, there's nothing like it. That guitar inspires me to play it. And this Harley Benton is a good guitar. It's not a great guitar. It's not something that I look at and I can't wait until my daughter goes to bed so I can plug in my headphones or plug into the Music Man and really play for hours. I don't get that vibe from it. I look at this more as a tool that I can modify with, play around with parts, experiment with, take out to gig, not worry if somebody knocks it over or dings it up. Whereas with the Gibson, if that happened, I'd be heartbroken if something bad happened to that guitar. And there's just the design, the quality. When these big companies do get it right, they are these gigantic companies for very good reason. The problem is you have to find the right one for you. And in this day and age, it could be a little harder than it used to be to do that. But if you take one thing away from this video, if anything at all, I hope it's that the most important thing about any guitar is that you love it and that you want to play it and that it inspires you to write and to create and to have an escape from this ever-changing, crazy world that we're all living in right now. It doesn't matter what brand it is to do that. And you don't have to impress anybody. At the end of the day, what does it matter? If you're happy, you're having fun, and you're satisfied with the tones coming out of your hands through whatever instrument that is, that's what matters at the end of the day. But that's where I'm going to leave you guys. Let me know your comments on these brands. Let me know what your favorite budget brand is, and let me know what your favorite high-end brand is as well. Leave me a like if you like what I am doing. Subscribe, please, if you are regular of these videos or you appreciate the content. Other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow for Would I Rebuy This Guitar episode, I think 16. So until then, take care, you guys.